The distress signal came through at 0400 hours, cutting through the quiet hum of the ship's night cycle. Haywan Park was already awake, as she often was during these long voyages through empty space. She sat in the captain's chair on the bridge of the Wanderer, a cup of coffee growing cold in her hand. The signal was desperate, broken. Someone was dying out there. "Captain, you need to hear this," said Yuna Shin from the communications station. The young science officer's face was pale, her hands shaking slightly as she adjusted the controls. Haywan set down her coffee and stood. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was thin and weak, like wind through broken glass. "This is Council Leader Vixtala of Valara Prime. We are under attack. Our shields are failing. Our people are dying. If anyone can hear this message, please. We beg for mercy. We beg for help. They are killing everyone. Our children. Please." The message cut off with a burst of static, then repeated. It was a loop, playing over and over into the darkness of space. "Where is it coming from?" Haywan asked. Yuna's fingers flew across her console. 4 light years from our current position. The Valara system. It's not in our mission parameters, Captain. Haywan knew that. The Wanderer was a deep space research vessel, sent out to map unknown systems and search for resources. They were supposed to avoid contact with alien civilizations. Earth's policy was clear: observe but do not interfere. But that voice, that desperate, dying voice. "Wake the senior staff," Haywan said. "Conference room in 10 minutes." The crew gathered quickly, still pulling on their uniforms. Tai-Il Kim, the ship's diplomat, arrived first. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and a quick mind. Su-Jin Lee, the chief engineer, came next, her gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. Dong-Hyun Choi, the weapons specialist, walked in last, moving with the careful grace of someone who had spent years in military service. Haywan played the message for them. They listened in silence. "We can't ignore this," Tai-Il said immediately. "That's genocide, mass murder." "We also can't violate Earth's non-interference policy," Dong-Hyun pointed out. His voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. "We're a science vessel. We have 12 crew members. We don't know what we're flying into." "So we just let them die?" Su-Jin asked. Her voice was hard. "We sit here with our rules and regulations while an entire species gets wiped out?" "I didn't say that," Dong-Hyun replied. "I'm just stating the facts." Haywan held up a hand for silence. "Yuna, what else can you tell me about the situation?" The science officer pulled up a holographic display. "I've been analyzing the signal and scanning the system. There are multiple ships in orbit around Valara Prime, military vessels. They're bombarding the surface. Based on the energy signatures, the planet's defensive shields are at 11% and dropping." "How long do they have?" Tai-Il asked. "Hours, maybe less." The room fell quiet. Haywan looked at each of her crew members in turn. She saw the same conflict on every face. They knew what the rules said. They also knew what was right. "I'm calling a vote," Haywan said. "Do we go to Valara Prime, or do we continue our mission?" One by one, hands went up, all of them. "Set course for Valara," Haywan ordered. "Maximum speed. Dong-Hyun, bring all weapon systems online. I want to know what we're dealing with before we get there." The Wanderer turned in space, its engines flaring bright as it accelerated. The ship was small and fast, built for exploration rather than combat. But every Earth vessel carried weapons. Space was dangerous, and humanity had learned long ago to be prepared. As they flew, Yuna continued to monitor the signals from Valara Prime. She routed them to the bridge speakers. The crew listened to the sounds of a civilization dying, screams, explosions, desperate cries in a language they couldn't understand. "I'm picking up transmissions from the attacking fleet," Yuna said. "They're speaking a language that matches our database, the Krithian Empire." Tai-Il leaned forward. "I know that name. They've been expanding aggressively through the outer sectors, conquered 17 systems in the last decade. What do we know about them? HFY asked. They're militaristic, aggressive. They believe in strength above all else. No diplomatic relations with Earth yet, but we've been watching them. And the Valerians? Peaceful, low-gravity world. They're fragile physically. No real military to speak of. Dong-hyun studied his weapons display. So we have a bully beating up someone who can't fight back. That's exactly what we have, Tai-il said. 3 hours later, the Wanderer dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valara system. What they saw made HFY's blood run cold. Valara Prime was a beautiful world of blue oceans and green continents, or it had been. Now parts of the surface glowed orange with fire. Debris floated in orbit, the remains of defensive satellites and civilian stations, and surrounding the planet like hungry predators were 30 Crythian warships. They were massive dark vessels covered in weapons and armor. They made the Wanderer look like a toy. "Captain, they're launching another bombardment," Yuna said, her voice shaking. On the main screen, bright lances of energy shot down from the Crythian fleet, punching through the weakening shield and striking the surface below. Cities burned. Millions died in seconds. "Get me closer," HFY ordered. "I want to be between them and that planet." "Captain, that's suicide," Dong-hyun said. "No, it's a statement." "How long until the shields fail completely?" 20 minutes. Yuna whispered. HFY took a deep breath. She thought about Earth, about humanity's history, about all the times someone had stood up against impossible odds because it was the right thing to do. "Then we have 20 minutes to make a difference," she said. "Prepare to decloak. Open all channels. I'm going to talk to these bastards." The Wanderer moved forward, slipping between the Crythian fleet and the dying planet below. On the surface, the Valerians huddled in shelters and basements, waiting for the end. In orbit, the Crythian commander prepared to deliver the final blow. And in the space between them, a small ship from Earth appeared out of nowhere, carrying 12 humans who had decided that some things were worth fighting for. The Crythian sensors detected the new arrival. Alarms sounded. Commanders shouted orders. Who were these newcomers? Where had they come from? They were about to find out. HFY straightened her uniform and nodded to Yuna. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Let everyone hear this." She cleared her throat and spoke into the void. "This is Captain HFY Park of the Earth vessel Wanderer. To the Crythian fleet. Stand down immediately and withdraw from Valara Prime. This attack is over." For a moment there was only silence. Then laughter. Cold, cruel laughter echoed across the communications channel. "Earth?" a voice said in perfect standard Galactic. "Never heard of it. This is Crythian space now, little ship. Leave or burn with them." HFY smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You've been warned. Whatever happens next is on you." She cut the channel and turned to Dong-hyun. "Battle stations. Let's show them what a Deathworld species can do." The Crythian commander's name was Crix the Unbreaker, and he had earned that title through 3 decades of conquest. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the small vessel that had dared to challenge him. It was tiny, barely a fifth the size of his smallest destroyer. Its design was strange, angular, and functional rather than elegant. Whatever species had built it clearly knew nothing of proper warship construction. "Scan it," Crix ordered. His sensor officer worked quickly. "Unknown configuration, Commander. The hull is unusually thick. Dense materials. I'm detecting a single power core, moderate weapons systems. Crew complement appears to be minimal. Life signs? 12. Only 12 beings aboard that vessel, Commander." Crix's mandibles clicked together in amusement. 12. They had sent 12 individuals to stop his entire fleet. The arrogance was almost admirable. "Open a channel," he said. The face that appeared on his screen was alien but recognizable. 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, a standard bipedal configuration. The being was female, with dark hair and darker eyes. She wore a simple uniform marked with symbols Crix didn't recognize. "I am Commander Crix of the Crithian Empire," he announced. "You are in Imperial space. Your interference will not be tolerated." "This isn't your space," the alien said calmly. "This is Valerian space. You're committing genocide." "Genocide?" Crix laughed. "We are establishing order. The Valerians refused to submit to proper authority. They chose extinction." "No," the alien said. "You chose this, but you can still walk away." Crix's amusement faded. "You have 1 ship. I have 30. You have 12 crew. I have thousands. What makes you think you can stop me?" "Because we're from Earth," the alien said, "and Earth doesn't abandon people who need help." Earth. Crix accessed his databanks quickly. Nothing. No records of any species called Earth or humans in any known database. "You are unknown to the Empire," Crix said. "This is your final warning. Leave now, or we will destroy you along with the Valerians." The alien smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "No. This is your final warning. Leave now, or we will stop you." Crix cut the transmission. "Destroy them." "1 salvo should be sufficient." 2 of his destroyers moved forward, their weapons charging. They fired simultaneously, massive energy beams designed to crack open reinforced battle stations. The human ship didn't even try to dodge. The beams struck its hull dead center. Light flared, energy cascaded across strange shields, and when the light faded, the human ship was still there, completely undamaged. "What?" Crix stared at the screens. "How?" "Commander, their shields absorbed the entire attack," his sensor officer reported, confusion clear in his voice. "But that's not possible. Our weapons should have overloaded any shield system that small." "Fire again! All nearby vessels! Concentrate fire!" 6 ships opened fire this time, enough firepower to destroy a moon. The human ship sat there and took it all, its shields glowing brighter but never failing. Then it fired back. The weapon was simple, crude even. A railgun, accelerating a solid metal projectile using magnetic force. Ancient technology that most species had abandoned centuries ago in favor of energy weapons. But the humans had refined it. The projectile moved at a significant fraction of light speed. It hit the first Crithian destroyer before anyone could react. The slug punched through the forward shields like they weren't there, through the hull, through the engine core, and out the other side. The destroyer exploded, torn apart from the inside. Before Crix could process what had happened, the human ship fired again. And again. 3 more destroyers died in as many seconds, each one destroyed by a single shot. "Evasive maneuvers!" Crix shouted. "All ships! Scatter formation!" The Crithian fleet began to move, their captains trying to avoid becoming the next target, but the human ship moved with them, matching their course changes with impossible precision. On the bridge of the Wanderer, Hei-Wan watched her crew work with quiet pride. Mireille Song sat at the navigation console, her hands dancing across the controls. The ship twisted and turned, pulling maneuvers that should have crushed every living thing aboard. "Pulling 8 Gs on the next turn," Mireille called out calmly. In the engine room, Sujin monitored the power systems. The ship was taking hits now as the Crithians regrouped and returned fire. Energy weapons splashed against their hull, radiation levels spiking. "Hull integrity at 92%, Sujin reported over the comm system. "Shields are holding. Minor damage to the port stabilizer." "Can you fix it?" Hei-Wan asked. "Already on it, Captain. Just need to—" There was a pause, then the sound of tools. "Got it. We're at 96% now." Dong-Hyun worked his weapons console with focused intensity. Each shot had to count. They didn't have unlimited ammunition, and every railgun slug took enormous power to accelerate. "Target lock on Destroyer Group 3, he said. "Firing." Another Krithian ship died. Tae-Il stood beside Hae-Won's chair, monitoring the communication channels. He could hear multiple conversations between the Krithian ships. Confusion, fear. They had never encountered resistance like this. "They're calling for reinforcements," he said, "and asking what we are." "Tell them," Hae-Won said. Tae-Il opened a broad channel. "You asked what we are. We're humans. We come from a planet called Earth. It's a high-gravity world. Dangerous. We call it home." On Crix's flagship, the crew listened to this transmission with growing unease. "High gravity? How high?" "Get me data on their ship's movements," Crix ordered. "Calculate the G-forces from that last turn." His sensor officer worked quickly, then stared at the results. "Commander, impossible. The readings must be wrong." "Show me." The numbers appeared on the screen. 15 gravities. The human ship had just pulled a turn that subjected everything inside to 15 times standard gravity. Such force would have turned Crix and his entire crew into pulp. Even in their acceleration couches with inertial dampeners, Krithian bodies couldn't handle more than 4 gravities without serious injury. "What kind of species can survive 15 gravities?" Crix whispered. As if in answer, the human ship accelerated again, pulling impossible maneuvers. It moved like a predator, like something that had evolved hunting and being hunted on a world where survival meant being faster, stronger, and more durable than anything else. "Commander, we've lost 8 ships," his tactical officer reported. "Recommend we withdraw and regroup." Crix's pride warred with his survival instinct. The Empire didn't retreat. The Empire conquered. But his ships were dying, and the humans hadn't even taken serious damage yet. Then one of his destroyers landed a lucky shot. A heavy plasma cannon strike hit the human ship's port side, punching through the shields for just a moment and scorching the hull. "Direct hit," the tactical officer shouted. "We damaged them!" Crix leaned forward, hoping to see the human ship break apart or at least limp away wounded. Instead, it accelerated toward the ship that had fired, moving faster than before. Inside the Wanderer, Jia-Yun rushed to the small medical bay. The impact had thrown Hyun-Woo Nam against a bulkhead. He was their security chief, a large man with scars from a dozen combat missions. "Report," Jia said, scanning him with her medical instruments. "Bruised ribs, maybe cracked," Hyun-Woo grunted, standing up. "Nothing serious. You need to stay here and let me... We're in a battle, Doc. I'll rest when we win." He walked out, holding his side but moving steadily. Jia shook her head. Cracked ribs would hospitalize most species for weeks. Humans just kept going. Their pain tolerance, their healing factor, their sheer stubborn refusal to stop was something that still amazed her even after years of medical training. Back on the bridge, Dong-Hyun locked onto the destroyer that had damaged them. "Permission to return fire, Captain?" "Granted," Hae-Won said coldly. The railgun fired 3 times in rapid succession. The first shot destroyed the destroyer's shields. The second penetrated its armor. The third turned its reactor into a small sun. The destroyer vanished in a flash of light, taking its entire crew with it. "Anyone else want to try?" Hae-Won broadcast on all channels. The Krithian fleet pulled back, creating distance between themselves and the impossible human ship. They had started this battle with 30 warships. Now they had 22, and the humans hadn't even suffered serious damage. Crix stared at his screens, trying to understand what had just happened. His empire had conquered 17 star systems. They had faced dozens of species. They had never, ever been beaten like this. "What are they?" he asked again, but now his voice was quiet. "Afraid." On the surface of Valara Prime, Vix Tala watched the battle through the few sensors still functioning. The Valarian leader couldn't believe what she was seeing. The monsters who had been destroying her world, killing her people, were running. Running from a single ship. "Who are they?" she whispered, her voice filled with hope for the first time in days. "Who are these humans?" She was about to find out. The Crithian fleet regrouped at a safer distance, their remaining 22 ships forming a defensive sphere. Crix stood on his bridge, studying the tactical display with growing frustration. The human ship held position between his fleet and Valara Prime, daring him to attack again. "Analysis," Crix demanded. "How is that ship so effective?" His chief science officer, a thin Crithian named Vex, approached nervously. "Commander, I've been studying their vessel. The hull composition is extraordinary. It's built from materials designed to withstand extreme impacts, much denser than our standard armor." "Why would they build such heavy armor? It must slow them down." "That's what I thought too, Commander. But then I considered their maneuvers, the G-forces they're pulling. I ran calculations on their home planet's gravity." Vex pulled up a holographic display. It showed a blue and green world, similar in size to many inhabited planets. But the gravity reading made Crix's blood chill. "1 full gravity," Vex said quietly. "Commander, they evolved on a world with gravity more than twice our standard. Their bodies are built for a high-gravity environment. What would crush us is normal for them." Crix remembered the violent turns the human ship had made. 15 gravities. If their normal environment was already twice Crithian standard, then they were adapted to handle extreme forces. Their bodies, their bones, their internal organs, everything was built stronger. "What else?" Crix asked. "Their planet is classified in the database as a Class 12 Death World, Commander. I had to dig deep to find the reference. Most species avoid such worlds. Earth has extreme weather, dangerous predators, toxic microorganisms, high radiation from its star, and frequent natural disasters. The humans didn't just survive there, they thrived. They became the dominant species." Crix looked at the human ship on his screen with new understanding. These weren't soft civilians. They were survivors from a world that tried to kill them every day. Warriors forged in the hardest crucible imaginable. "How do we beat them?" Crix asked. Vex hesitated. "I don't know if we can, Commander." Aboard the Wanderer, Yuna was having a conversation with someone she never expected to speak with. The Valerians had opened a channel, their leader's voice shaking with emotion. "Thank you," Vixtala said. "Thank you for coming. We thought we were going to die." "You're not going to die," Yuna assured her. "Not if we can help it. How are your people holding up?" "Badly. We've lost so many. Entire cities destroyed. But we're still here. Because of you." Yuna felt a lump in her throat. This was why they had come. This was why they had risked everything. "Can you tell me about these Crithians?" Yuna asked. "We need to know what we're dealing with." "They came 3 weeks ago," Vixtala explained. "Demanded we surrender our world and join their empire. We refused. We're a peaceful people, but we have the right to our own freedom. They attacked without warning. Our defenses were useless against them. They're cruel, ruthless. They take pleasure in destruction." "Then we'll stop them," Yuna said firmly. "I promise you." On the bridge, Haywan was making plans with her senior staff. They had bloodied the Crithian fleet, but 22 warships were still a serious threat. "They're not attacking," Dong-hyun observed. "They're waiting for something." "Reinforcements, probably," Ta-il said. "We need to end this before more of them arrive." "We can't take on the entire Crithian Empire," Haywan said, "but we can make them think twice about continuing this attack." "What did you have in mind, Captain?" Sujin asked. Haywan smiled. "We're going to have a conversation with Commander Crix, a very direct one." She opened a channel to the Crithian flagship. Crix's face appeared on the screen. his alien features twisted with anger and fear. "Human captain," he said, "you fight well, but you cannot defeat my entire fleet." "I don't need to defeat your entire fleet," HFY replied calmly. "I just need to make you leave. You've already lost 8 ships. How many more are you willing to sacrifice?" "The Empire does not retreat." "Then the Empire is going to lose a lot more ships today." Crix was silent for a moment. "What do you want?" "Leave Valara Prime. Leave this system, never come back. The Valarians are under Earth's protection now. Earth has no authority here." "We do now," HFY said. "You came here to conquer a peaceful species who couldn't defend themselves, but now someone can defend them. That's us. That's Earth. And if you're smart, you'll accept that and go home." Crix's mandibles clicked in frustration. "You're one ship. For now. But Earth has many ships, many humans. If you force us to, we'll come back with a fleet that will make your empire reconsider everything." It was a bluff, of course. Earth had ships, but not many that could reach this sector quickly. But Crix didn't know that. All he knew was that one human ship had destroyed 8 of his vessels without taking serious damage. "I need to consult with my superiors," Crix said finally. "You have 1 hour," HFY replied. "After that, we start shooting again." She cut the channel. "That was a gamble," Tai-Il said quietly. "All of this is a gamble," HFY replied. "But sometimes you have to bet everything on doing the right thing." In the Crithian fleet, Crix was indeed speaking with his superiors. The holographic image of High Commander Zorax floated above his communication console. "You've lost 8 ships to a single enemy vessel?" Zorax said, disbelief clear in his voice. "Yes, High Commander. These humans are unlike anything we've encountered. Their technology is formidable, but more than that, they themselves are formidable. They come from a high-gravity death world. They're built for combat." "And you're considering retreat?" Crix hesitated. The Empire's doctrine was clear: never surrender, never retreat. But doctrine didn't account for facing an enemy that seemed almost invincible. "I'm considering survival, High Commander. If we continue this battle, I will lose more ships, possibly all of them. And Valara Prime is not valuable enough to justify such losses." There was a long pause. Finally, Zorax spoke. "The Empire will remember this, Crix, but I agree. Withdraw. We will study these humans and return when we're better prepared." "Yes, High Commander." But Crix had no intention of simply leaving. His pride wouldn't allow it. He had been humiliated, his fleet decimated. He would withdraw, yes. But first, he would make the humans pay. "Prepare all ships for kamikaze runs," he ordered. "Target Valara Prime directly. If we can't have this world, neither will they." His officers looked shocked. "Commander, that's 22 ships, our entire fleet." "I know. But we'll take that planet and everyone on it with us. The humans won't be able to stop us all, and the Empire will have its revenge." On the Wanderer, Yuna's sensors suddenly screamed a warning. "Captain, the Crithian fleet is moving. All ships are accelerating directly toward Valara Prime." HFY jumped to her feet. "How long until impact?" 4 minutes. "They're going to ram the planet," Tai-Il shouted. "It's a suicide run." Dong-Hyun was already calculating firing solutions. "I can't hit them all, Captain. Not in 4 minutes. Even at maximum fire rate, maybe 12 ships at most." HFY felt ice in her stomach. They had come here to save the Valarians. They had fought so hard. And now, because of their interference, Crix was going to destroy the planet out of pure spite. "Fire at will," she ordered. "Take down as many as you can." The Wanderer's railgun began firing in a steady rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. Each shot took seconds to charge, seconds to fire. Crithian ships exploded one by one, but more kept coming. 3 minutes, Yuna called out, her voice breaking. On Valara Prime, Vixtala watched the incoming ships on her sensors. She understood what was happening. After everything, after the hope, They were still going to die. She opened a channel to the human ship. Captain HFY, thank you for trying. We will remember Earth. We will remember that someone cared enough to try. HFY felt tears on her cheeks, but her voice was steady. Don't give up yet. We're not done fighting. 2 minutes, Yuna said. Dong-hyun fired again and again. 15 Krithian ships destroyed, 16, 17. But 6 were still coming, and they were too close now. Even if he destroyed them, their debris would hit the planet with devastating force. Then, impossible, miraculous, everything changed. Captain, Yuna shouted. New contacts! Multiple ships dropping out of FTL! On the main screen, 6 vessels appeared from nowhere. They were larger than the Wanderer, sleeker, more heavily armed, and they bore the same markings, the same symbols. They were human. The lead ship opened a channel. A man's face appeared, older than HFY, with gray hair and sharp eyes. This is Captain Jae-Sung Han of the Earth military vessel Indomitable, he said calmly. Sorry we're late. Let's finish this. The 6 Earth ships moved in perfect coordination. Weapons fired that made the Wanderer's railgun look like a toy. Missiles streaked through space, simple kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to impossible speeds. The remaining 6 Krithian ships never had a chance. They were destroyed before they could even scream, turned into expanding clouds of debris. On his flagship, Crix watched his entire plan fall apart. Then a missile hit his bridge, and he didn't watch anything ever again. HFY sat back in her chair, her hands shaking with relief. Status? All Krithian vessels destroyed, Yuna reported, her voice filled with wonder. Valara Prime is safe. On the planet below, billions of Valarians looked up at the sky and wept. They had been saved. The monsters were gone, and the humans, these strange beings from a death world called Earth, had made it happen. Vixtala's voice came through the comm system, choked with emotion. Thank you, thank you. We owe you everything. HFY smiled, exhausted but happy. You owe us nothing. We just did what was right. The orbital space around Valara Prime was filled with debris. Destroyed Krithian ships floated like broken toys, their hulls torn open and their fires extinguished in the vacuum. The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. Captain Jae-Sung Han's ship, the Indomitable, moved alongside the Wanderer. The military vessel was 3 times larger, bristling with weapons and armor. Behind it, 5 more Earth ships held position, their sensors sweeping the system for any remaining threats. HFY stood in the Wanderer's small airlock as Jae-Sung crossed over. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's military forces. His face was weathered, lined with years of command decisions. Captain Park, he said, offering his hand. That was impressive work. HFY shook it. Thank you for the assist, Captain Han. We were out of time. I know. We've been monitoring your situation since you went dark. Admiral Sung-ho sent us as soon as we got your distress signal. I didn't send a distress signal. Jae-Sung smiled slightly. Your ship's automatic systems did when you engaged a hostile fleet. Standard protocol. Every Earth vessel is linked to the network. They walked to the bridge together. The crew of the Wanderer looked exhausted but relieved. Tai-Il was coordinating with the Valarians on relief efforts. Su-Jin was running repairs. Dong-hyun was organizing the debris field to prevent collisions. We need to talk about what happens next, Jae-Sung said seriously. You started something here, Captain. Something big. I know. We violated non-interference protocols. You saved 3 billion lives. There's going to be consequences, but not the kind you're worried about. Earth Command wants to meet with you. So does the Galactic Assembly. HFY felt a chill. The Galactic Assembly was the loose coalition of spacefaring species that governed interactions between different civilizations. Earth had observer status but wasn't a full member. What do they want? She asked. Answers. Humans just announced ourselves to the galaxy in a very dramatic way. We destroyed a Crithian fleet that was 20 times our size. Word is already spreading. Every species in known space is asking the same question. Who are these humans? And what do they want? Over the next few hours, more ships arrived. Not just human vessels, but alien ones too. News of the battle had spread at incredible speed. Species that had been conquered by the Crithians, species that lived in fear of them, all wanted to see for themselves. Hyejin Bey, the Wanderer's communications officer, was overwhelmed with incoming messages, requests for information, offers of alliance, thanks from freed worlds, questions about Earth's intentions. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Assembly," Hyejin said. "They're requesting your presence at an emergency session." "When?" Heiwan asked. "Now. They have a ship waiting to transport you." Heiwan looked at Jae Sung, who nodded. "I'll come with you. Admiral Sung Ho is already there." The assembly station was massive, a city-sized construct floating in neutral space. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in its central chamber, a huge amphitheater with seating arranged in circular tiers. Heiwan and Jae Sung entered together, escorted by armed guards. At the center of the chamber stood Admiral Sung Ho Kwan, Earth's senior military commander in this sector. He was an older man with iron-gray hair and calm eyes that missed nothing. The chamber fell silent as they approached. Hundreds of alien beings stared at the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to fear to hope. A tall, crystalline being stepped forward. This was Speaker Velkoth, the current leader of the assembly. His voice resonated like chimes. "Humans of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Assembly to answer for your actions at Valara Prime." Admiral Sung Ho stepped forward calmly. "We're happy to answer any questions. You interfered in a conflict between two sovereign species. You destroyed military vessels belonging to the Crithian Empire. You violated multiple protocols regarding contact with unknown civilizations. How do you justify these actions?" Sung Ho looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes of as many representatives as he could. "We don't need to justify defending innocent people from genocide. The Crithians were exterminating the Valerians. We stopped them. If that violates your protocols, then your protocols need to change." Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some angry, some approving. A hunched, insectoid being spoke up. "The Crithians are a powerful empire. You have made them your enemy. They will retaliate." "Let them try," Sung Ho said simply. "Earth doesn't start fights, but we finish them." Another representative, this one resembling a floating jellyfish, asked the question everyone wanted answered. "What does Earth want? Why did you intervene?" Sung Ho's expression softened slightly. "We intervened because it was the right thing to do. What does Earth want? Peace, freedom, the chance for every species to live without fear of conquest or extinction. We've had a long and bloody history on our own world. We've fought wars, committed atrocities, made terrible mistakes. But we've learned. We've grown. And now that we're part of this larger community, we won't stand by while others suffer." "Beautiful words," Speaker Velkoth said. "But words are easy. Actions reveal truth." The Crithian Empire has issued a formal complaint. They demand compensation for their destroyed vessels and the death of Commander Crix. "Crix is alive," Jae Sung interjected. "We pulled him from the wreckage of his flagship. He's being held for war crimes." This caused an uproar. The Crithians had never been held accountable for their actions before. They were too strong, too feared. A Valerian representative stood up, supported by two assistants. It was Vix Tala herself, weak and injured but determined to speak. "The humans saved us," she said, her voice amplified by the chamber's systems. "We begged for help. The assembly did nothing. The great civilizations of the galaxy stood by while my people died. But Earth came. Earth fought for us. Whatever else happens here today, remember that." The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives argued that Earth was dangerous, that they were too aggressive, too willing to use force. Others pointed out that the Crithians had been expanding unchecked for years, and only Earth had stopped them. Finally, Speaker Velkoth called for order. "This matter is too complex to resolve today. We will adjourn and reconvene tomorrow. In the meantime, Earth will be granted temporary restricted membership in the Assembly while we consider permanent status." It wasn't a perfect outcome, but it was a start. As they left the chamber, Admiral Sung Ho pulled Hwan aside. "You did good work, Captain. You and your crew." "We just did what we thought was right," Hwan said. "But, sir, what happens now? Are we at war with the Crithian Empire?" "Maybe. Probably, but we're not alone. 14 species have already sent diplomatic messages expressing support for Earth's actions. Species that the Crithians have conquered or threatened. There's talk of forming a defensive alliance." "An alliance to do what?" "To make sure what happened at Valara Prime keeps happening. To free the species under Crithian rule. To show the galaxy that bullies don't get to win anymore." Back on the Wanderer, the crew gathered in the small common room. They were battered, exhausted, but proud. They had made a difference. They had saved a world. "What do you think will happen to us?" Mireille asked. "I don't know," Hwan admitted. "We broke a lot of rules. We might face disciplinary action." "Worth it," Dong Hyun said firmly. The others nodded in agreement. Tai Il pulled up a news feed on the wall screen. Images of the battle at Valara Prime were being broadcast across dozens of worlds. The story was spreading like wildfire. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the screen. "Transmissions from 17 different species in Crithian-controlled space. They're all saying the same thing. Help us. Please help us like you helped the Valerians." "Can we?" Sujin asked. "Can we really help them all?" "Not alone," Hwan said. "But maybe we don't have to be alone anymore." On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, people watched the news in awe and fear. The humans had come from nowhere, from an unknown death world, and defeated one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. In the Crithian Empire's capital, leaders gathered in emergency session. They watched the footage of their fleet being destroyed, their ships torn apart like paper. They listened to Admiral Sung Ho's speech to the Assembly. "What are these humans?" one demanded. "They're warriors," another replied grimly. "Warriors from a world that made them strong, and now they're here." On Earth, in cities across the globe, people watched the news from space. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew they weren't, and they knew that space was dangerous, filled with species that would conquer and kill without mercy. But they also knew that Earth could stand against them. Earth could win. In Seoul, Mireille's younger sister watched the footage of her sister piloting the Wanderer through impossible maneuvers. She felt pride swell in her chest. Her sister was a hero. Humans were heroes. The galaxy would never be the same. The Crithians had learned that conquest came with a price. The peaceful species had learned that someone would stand up for them. And Earth had learned that it had a new role to play among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as isolationists, but as protectors, as guardians, as the ones who would stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were here to stay. 3 months had passed since the battle at Valara Prime. The galaxy was changing in ways no one could have predicted. Hwan stood on the observation deck of Earth's new orbital station above Valara Prime. Below, the planet glowed with lights as cities were rebuilt and wounds healed. Above, a fleet of mixed vessels patrolled the system. Human ships flew alongside Valerian craft, along with vessels from a dozen other species. Still hard to believe sometimes, Tae-il said, joining her at the window. Look at what we started. We didn't start this alone, Hae-won replied. We just gave people hope. It was true. In the weeks following the battle, the galaxy had erupted in change. Species that had suffered under Krithian rule had found their courage. Distress signals that had once gone unanswered were now being heard, and Earth had responded. The Wanderer had been repaired and upgraded. It was now the flagship of what people were calling the Guardian Fleet, a coalition of ships from multiple species dedicated to protecting the innocent. Hae-won had been offered command, and after much thought, she had accepted. "Captain Park, you're needed on the bridge," came Yuna's voice over the comm system. "We have an incoming transmission from the Doran system." Hae-won and Tae-il hurried to the bridge. The Doran were a species that had been conquered by the Krithians 5 years ago. Their world had been stripped of resources, their people enslaved. Yuna put the transmission on screen. A Doran elder appeared, his face lined with age and suffering, but his eyes were bright with hope. "Captain Park, our liberation fleet has arrived. 3 human ships and 5 Valerian vessels. The Krithian occupation force is withdrawing. We're free. After 5 years, we're finally free." Hae-won felt warmth spread through her chest. "That's wonderful news. Do you need any assistance?" "We need everything. Food, medical supplies, help rebuilding. But most of all, we need to thank you. Thank Earth. You showed us that resistance was possible." That hope wasn't lost. "We'll send relief ships immediately," Hae-won promised, "and welcome back to freedom." After the transmission ended, Tae-il pulled up a star map. Dozens of systems were marked with different colors: red for Krithian-controlled worlds, blue for liberated systems, green for Earth and allied territories. 23 systems liberated, he said. 14 more operations in progress. The Krithian Empire is retreating on all fronts. "They won't give up easily," Hae-won warned. "We need to stay prepared." "Oh, we are," said a voice from the doorway. Admiral Sung-ho entered, looking tired but satisfied. "Earth Command has approved the construction of 50 new military vessels. The Valerians are building 30. Other species are contributing too. The Guardian Fleet will be formidable." "What about the Galactic Assembly?" Hae-won asked. Sung-ho smiled. "They voted yesterday. Earth is now a full member, along with a new charter that forbids conquest and genocide. Any species that violates it faces sanctions and potential military intervention." It was more than they had hoped for. Earth hadn't just saved one world. They had changed the rules that governed all worlds. On Earth itself, the changes were just as dramatic. Humanity had always been divided by nations, religions, and ideologies. But the threat of hostile aliens had united them in ways nothing else could. Resources were being pooled, ships were being built, training programs expanded. In Seoul, Mirei's sister had joined the Space Academy, determined to follow in her sister's footsteps. She wasn't alone. Applications had increased by 300%. Everyone wanted to be part of humanity's new mission. But not everyone was happy with Earth's new role. In the Krithian capital, the Empire's leaders debated their response. They had lost territory, ships, and most importantly, their reputation as invincible conquerors. "We should mass our fleet and crush Earth," argued General Torvak. "Show them what happens when someone challenges the Empire." "And lose how many more ships?" countered Advisor Silvex. "The humans are stronger than we thought. Every battle costs us dearly. Maybe it's time to reconsider our approach." "You suggest surrender? I suggest survival. The galaxy is turning against us. Our tributaries are rebelling. Our allies are reconsidering their positions. If we continue on this path, the Empire will fall." The debate raged, but slowly, pragmatism won over pride. The Crithians began withdrawing from their most distant conquests, consolidating their forces. They weren't surrendering, but they were no longer expanding. It was a victory, even if it wasn't total. Back on the station above Valara Prime, Haywan received a visitor. Vixtala had made the journey to orbit despite her age and injuries. She wanted to speak in person. "I wanted to thank you again," the Valarian leader said. "But more than that, I wanted to give you something." She held out a small crystal that glowed with soft light. "This is a memory crystal. It contains our history, our culture, our stories. We want to share it with Earth, so you can understand who you saved, who we are." Haywan accepted it carefully. "We'll treasure this, and we have something for you as well." She handed Vixtala a datapad. "It contains Earth's history, all of it, the good and the bad, our wars, our peace, our failures and our triumphs. We want you to know who we are, too, so you understand that we're not perfect. We've made mistakes, but we're trying to be better." Vixtala studied the datapad with wonder. "Thank you. This exchange, this sharing of knowledge and culture, this is how true alliances are built." Over the following weeks, similar exchanges happened across dozens of worlds. Earth shared its art, music, literature, and science. Other species did the same. Barriers began to break down. Understanding grew. Gia found herself teaching alien medical students about human biology and medicine. They were fascinated and horrified in equal measure by how resilient human bodies were. "You can survive broken bones?" a Valarian student asked in disbelief. "Not just survive," Gia explained. "We can heal from them. Our bones grow back stronger than before. Remarkable. And radiation? You said humans can tolerate high levels?" "Compared to most species, yes. Our sun is quite active. We evolved with higher radiation exposure. It's not that we're immune, but we can handle more than you can." The students took notes furiously. Earth's biology was becoming a major field of study across the galaxy. Sujin, meanwhile, was sharing engineering techniques. Her improvisational repair methods amazed alien engineers who were used to following strict protocols. "You just welded it together?" a Doran engineer asked, staring at a repair Sujin had made during combat. "Had to. We were taking fire. No time for proper procedures." "But that shouldn't work. The structural integrity is fine. Sometimes you need to trust your instincts and make it work with what you have. Earth engineers learn to be creative." Dong-hyun was training Allied forces in combat tactics. His students were often shocked by human approaches to warfare. "You actually train to fight in hand-to-hand combat?" a Krellian officer asked. "Even with modern weapons?" "Always. Weapons fail. Equipment breaks. But you always have your body, your mind, your will. We train for every situation." He demonstrated some basic moves. The alien soldiers tried to replicate them and failed, their bodies not built for such physical intensity. "Don't worry," Dong-hyun said with a slight smile. "We'll develop techniques that work for your physiology. The principles are what matter. Never give up, always adapt, protect those who can't protect themselves." As the months turned into a year, the Guardian fleet grew in size and capability. The Wanderer led dozens of operations, always with the same mission: protect the innocent, oppose tyranny, make the galaxy safer. They weren't always successful. They took losses. Good people died, but they never stopped trying. One evening, Haywan sat in her quarters, recording a message to Earth. It was something she did monthly, keeping people at home informed about what was happening in the stars. "This is Captain Haywan Park reporting from the Guardian Fleet," she began. "A year ago, my crew and I made a decision that changed everything. We chose to help someone who needed it, even though it meant breaking rules and risking our lives. I want you to know that I'd make the same choice again." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Space is vast and dangerous. There are species out here who would conquer and destroy without mercy. But there are also species who value peace, who create beauty, who cherish life. They deserve protection. They deserve a chance to exist without fear. Earth has taken on a great responsibility. We're not trying to rule the galaxy or impose our will. We're trying to make sure everyone has the freedom to live their own lives. It's hard work. It's dangerous, but it's worth it. To everyone watching this back home, be proud, be hopeful. We're making a difference out here. We're showing the galaxy what humanity stands for, not conquest, not domination, but courage, compassion, the will to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. She ended the recording and sent it on its way to Earth, traveling at the speed of light across the vast distances. 2 years after the battle at Valara Prime, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for a ceremony. On a new station built jointly by a dozen species, they unveiled a memorial. It listed the names of everyone who had died in the liberation campaigns. Humans and aliens, soldiers and civilians, all those who had sacrificed so others could be free. Heiwan stood with her crew as Admiral Sung Ho gave a speech. "We remember those who fell," he said. "We honor their sacrifice, and we commit ourselves to ensuring they didn't die in vain. The galaxy they dreamed of, one where peace is possible and tyranny is opposed, that galaxy is being built right now. By all of us, together." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds stood together, united in purpose and respect. As they dispersed, Mireille approached Heiwan. "Captain, we just received orders. There's a distress signal from the Outer Rim. A species we've never encountered is under attack." Heiwan felt that familiar mix of apprehension and determination. "Assemble the crew. Plot a course. Let's go see if we can help." The Wanderer and its escort fleet moved out, engines bright against the darkness of space. Behind them, dozens of other Guardian fleet vessels prepared for their own missions. The work was never done. There was always someone who needed help. But that was okay. Earth and its allies were ready. They would keep fighting, keep protecting, keep standing for what was right. On Earth, in Seoul, Mireille's sister graduated from the Space Academy. She received her assignment, the Wanderer. She would serve under her sister, continue the mission, carry the torch forward. She looked up at the stars with excitement and pride. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians, as the ones who answered when someone called for help. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they had made the galaxy better for it. In a small apartment on Valara Prime, a young Valarian child asked her parent a question. "What are humans like?" The parent smiled, remembering the day the sky had filled with battle and then with hope. "They're brave. They're strong. They're kind. And most importantly, when we needed them, they came. That's what humans are like." The child nodded, satisfied. She went back to her homework, which included learning basic Earth Standard language. Maybe someday she would visit Earth. Maybe she would serve on a Guardian fleet vessel. Maybe she would stand alongside humans and fight for others who needed help. The possibilities were endless. The galaxy had been changed forever by the actions of 12 humans on one small ship. They had shown that courage mattered, that compassion mattered, that standing up for others, even at great risk, was not just possible but necessary. And all across the stars, beings from 1,000 different worlds looked to Earth with gratitude, respect, and hope for a better future. The story that had begun with a desperate cry for mercy had become a story about courage, sacrifice, and the power of doing what's right. It was a story still being written, with new chapters added every day. And it all started because someone decided that "I was just following orders," or "it's not my problem," weren't good enough answers when innocent lives were at stake. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were here to help.